Hi, everyone. So, and hi, Brian. So, okay. Now, yes, I just want everyone to know that this is being recorded. So I was going to record on a two-computer setup and realized there was an echo issue that I hadn't anticipated. So this is being recorded on Zoom. I'm also going to present on Google Meets, and so the whole screen here where you guys are, and I've got three monitors, so I'm trying to balance it all out. I think it's going to work. I did a test run yesterday, but uh, so I think this will work. Um, but if there are any problems, I will stop and try and figure it out. All right. Just one sec here. Okay. Yes. Yes, it's recording. Okay. All right. Just one. Hold on. Just checking the recording here to make sure that we are good. Okay. Leela, I just need to know that I have the power to share the screen. Yes, if you can, so I just power to screen share. Okay, hold on. I might be able to do it anyhow. All right, one sec. Um, right. Okay. I think I can do it here. So share. Yeah, there's a share screen button here. So, all right, entire window. All right, I'm gonna try a window, see if that works. Okay. Um, all right, sorry. Google Chrome wants me to edit one of my settings. Oh, Sorry, it kicked me. I had to change a setting and it totally kicked me out. Oh, oops. Okay, sorry, I had to change a setting and it just like kicked me out. And I think we're good now. All right. Let me share the, start the, or continue sharing this. Okay. Oops. One more time. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to share the presentation. So I've created a presentation just to share my experience. I thought that would be the easiest way to go through. And when I started I didn't imagine it would be as long as it was. So I was just sort of putting down on my thoughts. So there might be parts that I skip over because it goes a little long, but I'm going to make a copy or there'll be a copy of the presentation available for anyone who wants to sort of go through some of the bits here because there are some parts where there's a bit more detail. Okay. All right. Are you able to see this? All right. Let me scroll back through. All right. I'm just going to resize this a little bit. All right. Is that good? Can everyone see? I'm a little bit afraid to go into slideshow mode because things jump from screen to screen when I do that. But if you guys can see this, I will proceed. Okay. All right. So this is the retrospective here. Just and it's an overview. Um, we wouldn't be lawyers or potential lawyers without having a disclaimer. So basically saying this information I have. Don't sue me if I've got it wrong, but I think it's pretty right. At least at the time that now. So my background, just so you have a perspective on how I came to approach taking the DC bar. So I'm a dual British American citizen, and I have a residency permit for the Netherlands. So I was raised in the U.S., but I went to law school in the U.K. And I became a citizen in 2013. I've got 3 kids. My career was IT before this, IT project management. Um, I am neurodivergent, so I've got pretty hardcore ADHD, which sort of affects everything. But in terms of exam taking, I was granted accommodations based on my medical history. Um, so I earned my LLB in the UK, but I didn't go on to qualify to become a solicitor there. So there's several steps that you go through in the UK to become a solicitor or barrister. I just went through the first step. I didn't go through the second step. So someone who got an LLB in the UK and eventually went to practice on in the UK, they may have different career options and bar choices in the US than someone who just got to the point where I got. All right. Just education. So University of NYU's undergrad, University of Brighton, master's, University of Law, LLB, George Mason Law School. And then there's also a little segue into Concord Law School where I did 1 year at Concord, simultaneous to doing my LLB. That was not a good move and I don't recommend it. And um, I thought I was a superwoman that I could do both. I could not, but I'm glad I did it in the end because my degree from University of Law was 23 credits short to enable me to take the bar. And because I did that simultaneously with Concord Law School. Concord, I had 17 credits out of Concord. So I was still 6 credits short to take the bar exam in DC, but I was able to take those. So I took 3 additional courses, 2 of them at George Mason, and then I went back to Concord for another course. Okay, so why the DC bar? California is too difficult. Washington State seemed far, and I couldn't imagine living there. New York, I wasn't eligible because my entire law school career has been online, so I haven't been in a classroom to learn the law. And so New York has these regulations where you have to have like like I don't know, 700 hours of classroom instruction. I don't know, Brian, I think you know more about uh, what New York requires. But whatever it requires, I didn't have. Right. Sure. Yeah. All right. So some difficulties that I faced initially were that, and this is sort of difficulties in like approaching, like how do I even get to register for the bar? Like, what do I do? Like, okay, I know I need to take the bar. Like, what, where do I start? So it was like figuring out like what was exactly needed. Um, Keeping up with my LLM studies at the same time I was doing Barbary. I mean, it was rough. It was really rough, and probably more rough because I have 3 kids, a husband, I had a job, and I was doing a law internship all at the same time. So essentially, the whole summer semester, I got very, very, very little sleep. And also, my Barbary studies slipped. Something had to give. So I probably would have done it differently, but I don't know how differently I could have been. I mean, I think the only thing that would have made like a major, major difference is if I were just totally independently wealthy and didn't have to work, and could have just focused, split my time evenly. So I feel like I had a clear roadmap from admin or faculty on the process for registering for the bar. So like we figured it out, but I was hoping that there'd be more guidance as to like how to, how to do it or how to go about it. I also had trouble figuring out what documentation I needed to get from my overseas university. So like all of you who are, from overseas, that getting stuff from your college overseas is like not easy, or at least it wasn't easy for me. And at least during COVID, I had one that, like at University of Law, there was one person doing all the transcripts who went into the office 1 day a week. So if you missed the day that she was in the office, like it was like you had to wait another week for her to get there. And then there's a 4 week backlog on that. So I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to get what I needed in time. Um, and then having to take extra classes to make up the shortfall. So that was difficult in so much that it meant that I had to dedicate more time to going to class and being in class. Um, so that took away from my bar studies a bit. And then also needing to get my whole family on board with the importance of the exam. So my my husband sort of knew how important it was, but I don't know that he knew like how like hard and important it was. I think my parents caught on how important it was. And my husband's foreign, so he's from Scotland. So it was just like trying to get the whole family on board to be like, all right, we're going to support you. It was difficult. We got there eventually, but I wish I had a little more support earlier. Okay, so Carol, did you want to add anything at this point? Okay. Yeah, there's no real guide, and I don't know if because maybe things change from year to year, or maybe no one's just um has figured it out. But oh, Brian, did you have something? Okay. And what I would say is that my counterpoint to that is that as a group of foreigners, and I know I'm only sort of semi-foreign, it's I think there should be a little more help. I get like if you were sort of raised in the US and you've gone through the US college system and you've gone to, law school in the US, you have more of an understanding of what's involved. And I don't think that applies necessarily to a group of foreign students. So I would, um, I think having a little additional assistance, um, keeping in mind that there are lots of different backgrounds involved would be better than not. Sure. Maria, you have a question. No. I take it in 2 weeks. So I will take the MPRE in 2 weeks. So I did not have to take it before. Yeah. And so we did have one student in our cohort who took it before. She Um, she's very smart. But she just studied only 3 days before the exam and failed by 1 point. So I think that's a win because if you only study 3 days before and you miss it by 1 point, that's pretty good. Ursha, you had a question. Hey, Ursha, it's nice to see you. Ursha's been my partner in crime for this. Yeah, definitely. Zulima, did you have a question? Oops, okay. All right. All right. So, I call this pre-registration. So this is sort of what you need to do, but even before you start the pre-registration. So you'll need an account, on the DC, Bar Appeals Court. There's another proper name for it. I don't think, and I've got a correction in here in the slide. But you need to register, for an account, and you don't have to wait until you're ready to take the bar. Um, you can register it like for today and just hold on to that account. Um, okay, so as soon as you start the LLM program, or ideally before, you want to contact, I don't know how to say her name, Miss Welsh, who's a staff attorney at the bar, and ask her specifically, if you have enough credits or if you're eligible to take the bar exam once you finish the LLM program that you're in. And so we had one student that didn't do this beforehand, and it meant that like he didn't find this out until I guess after he paid his tuition. So he's not eligible for the DC bar exam, but he's eligible for some for another one. So it's not a sad ending, and he's good now. So no sad stories here. But just be aware that you should find out sooner rather than later, because if I had waited till a month before the bar exam to ask this and I found out that I was 6 credits short, I would have really been up a creek without a paddle, because there was no way I'd be able to make up 6 credits in that time. So I found out in February that I had until November to do 6 credits. That's totally doable. Shashura, I see your question. Is it quick? Yes. Okay. Yes. Oh yeah, absolutely. All right. So we have so this is an example of the email that I sent. And so this is one reason why I'm sharing the PPT, so you can see so you can have a copy of to see what I've sent. So I sent a very generic email, basically saying, well, these are the courses I took on my LLB, and these are the amounts of credits it was worth. Is this enough to take the bar exam? And then Miss Welsh wrote back, and she gave me a really sort of generic response. Um, but I needed to know more specifically. And so I wrote back again. Sorry, she also sent back this, it's called Guidance for Graduates of Non-ABA Approved Law Schools, 26 hours. So it's just guide that she sent back, which basically goes over what's required. And so then I wrote back to her and I included my LLB transcripts, my I used the credit assembly service to so that they could evaluate my law degree from University of Law. Um, you don't have to use them. There are other services out there. But because at the point I was applying to George Mason, I was also applying to other schools. I had this. So because I had it, I sent it to her. I sent a copy of my LLB diploma. I sent a course description of my LLB courses, and I sent my Concord Law School transcript. So remember, I had my LLB, and I also had um, these 17 credits I'd taken at Concord Law School. So she wrote back, and she said, based on the transcripts, you have so I had 240 UK credits equals 60 US credits. At Concord Law School, 17 credits. So uh, basically, I had a shortfall. And she said I was welcome to make it up. So I could take any law school, as long as there were law school classes, they counted. So what I did was that I took two of the classes at Scalia, and that's probably the easiest way. Just to like, if I mean, I was already getting financial aid anyhow because I'm American, but it was just sort of easier to register for a course in a program I was already in. Um, but it's less expensive if you take it at a different law school that has like different rates. So I went back to Concord Law School to register for a course, and Concord charges about $500 per credit plus school fees. So I spent like maybe 1,100 for a course. Um, and I think the Concord courses, they're all asynchronous, or at least all the ones I've had have been asynchronous. It was actually quite hard, and I did contract drafting. I eventually ended up with a C plus, which is like my lowest grade. So I'm glad it didn't sort of transfer over to Scalia. Um, and also, if you do take any courses at Concord, I don't think they're going to transfer over to Scalia. So you take the courses to qualify, but know that that might be terminal. You might not be able to use them anywhere else. Um, okay. So I took at Concord pretrial preparation and e-discovery, which were both really good courses. I mean, I only took them because they fit in my schedule and they were online. But it turns out there were writing courses, and I really needed writing for my portfolio so I could apply for jobs. So it all worked out really well. So just a quick correction, and this correction came from Professor Lemley. The actual name of the organization that runs the bar exam of and all things related to the DC bar admissions is the DC Court of Appeals Admissions Committee, and that's where Miss Elay works. So, or Miss Welsh, sorry, with Miss Welsh works. Um, so thank you, Professor Lemley, for that correction. All right, so step two, we're on to pre-bar registration. So after you've gotten some sort of confirmation back as to from Ms. Welsh that says either, okay, you've got enough credits or no, you don't have enough credits. Once you know, you want to start doing your pre-bar prep. So that for me included applying for any accommodations and getting your paperwork together for that. So this is I'm talking about accommodations to take the bar exam if you need a medical accommodation. So I have ADHD. So that for me it was registering so I could have extra time and breaks to take the exam. But you could be breastfeeding. You could have some other issue. The woman I had who was in the room with me taking the bar exam, I don't know what her issue was, but I think it was some heart issue. So I think she had a heart monitor. She had something on her that was electronic that looked like a telephone. And I'm like, I know that's not a mobile phone, but it really, really looks like it. So you can have different issues to get accommodations. You need to start that paperwork really, really early. And in my case, it required me flying back to England to getting the paperwork signed and then coming back over here. And that took a lot of planning. You want to also compile a list of places you've lived over the past 10 years and includes any places you've lived more than 30 days. So I have moved 16 times in 10 years. I always had this has been my home base, but I was a contractor overseas and we just moved quite often. And sometimes we stayed at Airbnbs for a period of time. So you need to get that list together. But what I found is because my husband is an immigrant and we were going through the green card process, we had that information together anyhow because we had to submit it to immigration. You want to compile a list of 6 personal or professional, I put personal and professional, but it should be, or really 6 contacts who are going to be your references and ask if it's okay, let them know that the bar is going to contact them. So I used my college roommate, who I went to NYU with, who's now an attorney in Long Island. I used people I've known for a long period of time who really know me. So everyone I asked agreed to it. And I also wanted to ask people who I knew would be responsive. So if you've got that one friend who might be a good friend, but they're really bad at sending things back in the mail or responding to emails, you don't want that friend. You would rather have someone who can, respond back truthfully and quickly to the responses. Because what you'll find is that character and fitness will come back and say, we can't get in touch with this person. So for instance, I hear from character and fitness on a regular basis now. And my heart just sort of stops beating every time I hear from them. But the last thing is one of my employers, they can't get in touch with them. And so now I have to somehow prove that I work someplace. I don't know. I'll figure it out. So you want to make sure that you are current on your credit card bills, your taxes, and your student loans. Oh yeah, and Urja makes a good point. Time management is very important for tackling for not just this, but also the exam. Also, if you have any civil litigation going on, you'll need to declare that. So sort of in the middle of all of this, I have some civil litigation going on as a defendant and as a plaintiff, so 2 different cases. Not ideal, but they both involve the same crazy relative. So I'm working through that, but I've had to declare everything to the bar. Slightly embarrassing, but what are you going to do? So you want to gather any defaults you've reported over the past 10 years, gather all your old financial data. So I know that like for me, before like before I've moved overseas and back and overseas and back, but there was one period of time where I was unemployed for a short period of time, but it was short enough to like drain my savings and like cause me to have a few defaults. So I just had to declare everything. But this is stuff going back like maybe 2015. So stuff I've cleared up and I've paid off since, but like I couldn't really remember. So I had to get a copy of my credit report. I had to call these companies to say, did I pay you back? Oh, I did. That was so good of me. And like just really go back and make sure that everyone had been paid and the date that they were paid and what the last payment was. And I had to declare all of that. And then in some instances, when I went back over my credit report, I found a couple of places where there were very small payments. Like one place was $80 um, that I had to pay. So I paid everything that that I didn't realize was on that was still owed because they hadn't been sending me anything to say pay us, and I didn't know, and it was going back like years and years and years. So I just made sure I paid everything. In the end, I think I paid off $300 worth of stuff, which in total is not too bad. Um, so I also had a separate sheet where I explained everything. I explained why I lived in different places and like, so if you live someplace but work someplace else. So, at one point I was working, I was living in Germany but working in the Netherlands. Like you need to make your story make sense. Like why is this? So I have all these extra sheets of paper that I submitted that explains, okay, this is sort of the history of where I've lived. This is my job history. This is why I've left these jobs, or this is, so I had lots of explanations, and then I had explanations about the financial data, and I had explanations about um, also the civil litigation going on. So I had a very large application. So character and fitness has come back to me for little things, which I'm sort of happy about because hopefully I've explained the big things. In terms of the bar application, you want to just get through a little bit each day. So I would say give yourself 2 to 3 weeks to fill in the application. It took me 22 days to fill it in. Don't try and do it all in one sitting. I know someone in our cohort tried to do it the day before it was due and had a technical glitch and wasn't able to do it. Um, for character and fitness questions, I mean, I don't know what the right protocol is, but for some things I asked Professor Lemley. But if you have serious character and fitness issues, you might need to speak with a character and fitness attorney. So my application form itself was very long. It was over 30 pages, not including the supplemental information that I submitted. Um, so you might find the registration process to be traumatic. I found it to be a little bit traumatic, especially for CNF. So when I was going through the application, so they want to know about all civil litigation. So I had an employment situation that involved sexual harassment, and I had to revisit that situation, and I found it really, really triggering. And so by the time I was done with the application, I just felt like I'd been through 9 rounds with someone. It felt very, very hard on my heart, hard on my soul. And I was just like, I don't know if I can do this for another state. This was hard. Um, so we'll see. Maybe I will be able to do it. Maybe enough time will have gone by that I've been able to forget things. But I mean, I had to actually go into the actual litigation itself because there's stuff I blocked out. And so there were things I needed to declare. Um, so I found that to be really rough. And I want to say it's nothing that I'd done wrong, it's stuff that was done to me. So that I found also particularly difficult. Um, and then there was a part where I was confused because I signed an NDA for one of these suits that I'd taken forward. Um, and so I didn't know, like, well, can I even declare this on, should I, can I, like, how does it work? And it was unclear because the NDA was governed by the laws of England and Wales, but I'm doing CNF in DC. In the end, I explained that I had an NDA. I declared what I thought seemed reasonable, but I said if they want to see a copy of the suit, they are more than welcome. Um, okay, so yeah, it took me 22 days to go through it. Don't know if I'll do it again. In the registration process, the documents that I uploaded were address history with explanations of when I moved, how it was possible to live in different places, civil litigation, a list of employers, why I left each job. I actually had like, it was an Excel spreadsheet, um, credit report, which was not required, but I added it in because I wanted to show that, yes, I had, at certain points, that I did, have defaults, but I cured them and they're fixed. And here's my credit report to show it. Also, at one point, I had defaulted on my student loans. So I had, this was back in, and I don't even know when it happened, but I fixed it and went through the whole process where you rehabilitate yourself in 2017. So I wanted to show that, yes, I had these issues, but I fixed it and now we're good, right? So I just submit that, and I submitted all my student loan info to show, look, I'm current on it now, even though in the past, a while ago, that I wasn't. Let's see, I uploaded official transcripts from GMU, which you might not get until actually after, the very last official ones. You might not get until quite a bit after. My transcripts from the LLB program, transcripts from Concord and other law programs. I uploaded the email from the DC Bar that finally stated that I was eligible to take the bar. I uploaded a copy of I have a driver's license report. I got a speeding ticket once, and so I was just hyper vigilant that I needed to like declare every tiny thing. So I couldn't find a copy of the speeding ticket, but because it was like the ticket was for driving 5 miles above the speed limit, it didn't like record on my license, so I didn't get points. But anyhow, the driver's license report wasn't required, but I uploaded it anyhow. And then I have state and FBI clearances because I'm a registered substitute teacher. Those weren't required. I uploaded them anyhow. Okay, registration cost. So the bar exam itself for a first-time applicant is $232. Not bad because some states charge a lot more. Now the NCBE foreign fee is $925. So that's the big one. Plus there's a fee for the computer software. So just on registering alone, I spent $1,307. And then this is the email you get once it shows that you're eligible. Okay, so step 4, preparing for the bar. And this is just sort of really generic advice here. Let's see. So top 5 tips. You want to, as Urja was saying, you want to seek support from others. Urja has been a fantastic source of support, and we've been able to lean on each other with any questions and so on. And the other people in the cohort have as well. Urja and I, we ended up getting the same bar coach in the end, so we had a lot of shared experiences. So we could ask each other questions, and I think Urja had she took the exam without accommodation, so she may have a different point of view of the exam. So she's someone that I would recommend speaking to as well about how she found the Armory, because from my understanding, it was not as comfortable as my plush accommodations at the DC Bar. Okay, practice. You want to practice with past exam questions, but I have to say, like, I practiced with 2,500 exam questions. There were like 4 questions on there that I recognized. All the other questions, it was as if I've never seen these questions ever before or any questions like it. So I the MBEs for the past bar exam were very, very tough. Study consistently, that's obvious. It took me a while to get into a study rhythm. I wish I had been able to get into that rhythm earlier. I think Erja was very good to be able to get into that rhythm, and so she seemed really quite disciplined and able to do that in a different way than me. Um, Take a bar review course. So Barbary for Flex LLM students is included, and I like Barbary, but in some ways, like, I don't know if it was totally for me. If I had endless amounts of money, I would definitely take it. And I think I may have taken some of it for granted because it was included in the program. Uh, so there are parts of it that I liked and the parts of it that I didn't like. But there are other programs out there as well in case you don't have Barbary included in your program. So there's JD Advising, Barmax, Helix, and a few others. And there are also supplements. Um, okay, so you want to be able to understand like the what is involved with the bar exam, the different tests that are involved. Excuse me, I need some water. Um, so and the format of the test. So there were three sort of different tests. There were the MPTs, which are the practical tests. There are the MBEs, which were the multiple choice questions, and the MEEs, which were the essays. So for preparing for the bar, these are the study methods that that I used, and this is my out-of-pocket total, which did not include registering for the bar. This is why I have no money now. So, um, Adaptabar. So one thing I really liked about Barbary is that it included the basic Adaptabar, which was great. And it included Critical Pass. I don't know about Critical Pass. I'm not cool with the flashcards. Those flashcards have very sharp edges, and I found them a little bit hard to work with. The information on them was good, but I'm not a flashcard person. But some people really are. Um, I used also the CPRAC. So CPRAC, he's like a data analyst, and he analyzes data from people who have taken the bar exam. And so he works with numbers, and I'm like, I think there's something to this guy's method. So he doesn't have oh gosh, we're ending soon. He doesn't have a specific method, but he will say, all right, based on his data, these are the 860 questions that are most likely to show up on the exam. Out of the 200 questions you'll get, these are the ones, so based on his data. So I went through that. And also I got MP3s of that. So I could listen to it like when I was in the bathroom, when I was in the car, like I was driving in my car and I was listening to the MP3. I was listening to MP3s of the multiple choice questions. And so I had my kids trying to guess along the answer. So it would read the question out and it would read the multiple choice answers. So my kids were saying, it's A, it's A, it's A. And I'm like, oh my God, if my 9-year-old twins get this right and I get it wrong, I'm just going to give up at this point. I also, so Bar Now, we use the Bar Now Everything Pack. Bar MD, this is what I used for the that should say MPTs. That was free on YouTube, but I think she does a separate course for MPTs. So I hired a bar coach, and that was $2,500. And the bar coach was sort of different from my Barbary bar coach. So this bar coach, his name is Joel, he sort of held us accountable. He was more about, I think, the motivation and elevating your confidence in yourself, but also really good methods for getting through parts of the exam. I rented some books for the bar. So anyhow, this is my out-of-pocket total, which does not include Barbary, but Barbary was included in the tuition. So methods I've never used. Bar Max, JD Advising, Bar Hero, Bar Exam Toolbox podcast, which I hear a lot about, Studicata, Themis, and Helix. I hear Themis is good because they're, whereas you have a lot of long videos in Barbary, Themis, you get shorter videos. Okay. Um, Mistakes for the bar, falling behind on Barbary while doing the LLM, not starting with a private coach soon enough, taking too long to get into my study rhythm, watching too many Barbary videos. So passive learning versus active learning. I spent so much time watching those Barbary videos, and I feel like I wish I was more actively learning. I didn't spend enough time doing essays. I didn't spend enough time learning the rules of black letter law. I was job hunting while I was studying for the bar. I just should have just waited till now to do it. Not incorporating exercise into my study regime. And I wish I'd been on like a regime of vitamins before, because you really need to sort of be on your game. When I was doing my bar study, I was waking up every day feeling like complete crap. And then I started on vitamins. Um, and I felt much better. And so I advise you to like, you really want to get your health up there. So when you take the bar, you can, be at your most healthy point. So registering for the bar, this is about accommodations. This is really a whole separate, it could be a whole separate online event to go through. So I won't go through it now, but just know for accommodations, you need to get everything done way in advance of registering for the bar. Also, if you're going for accommodations, don't expect more accommodations for the MPRE than for the bar. So whatever accommodations you were granted for the MPRE, that's what you're going to get for the bar, and vice versa. They don't like scale up unless I guess something else happens in between. Registering your computer. So the registration cost was $150, and you can do it through that link. I got a new computer after I registered my old one. It was no problem. The computer people were super nice on the phone and really helpful. And this just goes into more about registering on the computer, and you get your own account. And that's, this is what it looks like. So just before the exam, the DC bar will send you a ticket and detailed instructions. Read everything, right? Not only read everything, talk to the people in your cohort who are doing it at the same time. Because there, even though I read everything, there's stuff I missed. So Urja contacted me one day and said, "Oh, did you submit this?" I forget what it was. And I'm like, "What? Huh? No, what?" And so just being able to talk to her about it was super helpful. I think it was something for the MPRE that I something that you needed to submit for the bar, but it was about the MPRE. Okay, so oops, where's my mouse here? Okay, so you want to print out your bar ticket. You want a form of ID that shows your full name. My driver's license doesn't show my full name, so I brought my passport with me. Or sorry, I didn't bring my passport. I had to have it FedEx to me when I was down in DC. You need your vaccination card and you need a face mask. Um, and so it gives you the information here about cell phones. You're going to have to leave a lot of stuff back in your hotel room or in your car. There's no refrigeration there. Now, in my case, we had really nice, I had a refrigerator, we had a microwave, we had vending machines at the DC bar. That wasn't the case at the Armory. Ursha, can you tell us a little bit about like what you experienced at the Armory? Okay. So I would say, like, if you're eligible for accommodations, I would go for them. If you have the eligibility for it, just because you will be so much more comfortable at the DC bar itself than in an auditorium. And I know there's some people who who are eligible for accommodations who don't want to go through the paperwork, and I understand because it's a lot of paperwork. But your comfortability will be improved if you can take it at the DC bar. Um, Okay, so I think we're going to get cut off. Um, I can send another link if there's anyone who wants to. We won't. Oh, okay, great, great, great. Stressing me out a little bit. Right. Okay. So preparing for the bar exam. So here's some other sort of prep that I did. So I got a hotel room the Friday before the bar exam. So the bar exam, I believe it's always on a Tuesday, at least in February it is. I'm guessing it is. Brian, do you know for July? Um, okay, I don't know if you heard, but so it's on a it's on a Tuesday. Um, so I got to DC. So I live in Philadelphia or outside Philadelphia. So I got a hotel room Friday. I got a different hotel room Friday to Monday than I did from Monday to the next Friday, just because of the cost of the hotel and the location of the hotel. I wanted a hotel that was like walking distance to the bar. Like, so I wanted to be able to basically roll out of bed and walk into the bar. It wasn't quite like that, but I mean, I was like 6 minutes away. But the first hotel room I got, and this is the first hotel room it was a very nice hotel. I traveled down there. I brought pillows for my own bed because I wanted to be really comfortable. I brought my Alexa, my Google Home device. I brought a travel router. I brought a second monitor. I brought my Lucky Bar Exam t-shirt. So I just wanted to sort of try to recreate an environment in a more peaceful way. So I didn't feel like I was so far away from home. So preparing the bar bag. So what I had in my bar bag, I had good quality pens, highlighters, Ticonderoga pre-sharpened pencils, earplugs. I got mine from a company by Loop, moisturizing hand sanitizer, a mouse pad and wrist guard. Um, Urja. Whoa. So, so initially when they said we had to bring like a Ziploc bag, they didn't say what size Ziploc bag. So I got like the biggest Ziploc bag I could find. It was like literally like I mean, it was huge. It was like, I don't know, it was like one of these bags you use to store stuff under your bed. But then I later found out it should have been like a gallon bag. But they didn't really, I don't want to say they didn't care. They didn't at the DC bar they didn't say anything. Oh yeah, Urja, there's the Urja has the bags. Yeah. So in that bag, I had my computer, I had my mouse pads, I had my medicines. Also, I was afraid that I was going to get my period during the bar exam, so I had all my like sanitary stuff like in a non-clear bag. Um, so it was quite a heavy bag, but it worked for me. Um, so I would say, get your bag together before you leave for DC. Um, they have a list of things you're allowed to bring in. Wrist guards aren't on the list. So I was just pushing my luck bringing a wrist guard. And the wrist guard would be, I don't know if you can see my videos, something like this, which would just help me when I'm typing. Um, but it can't any of these things, it can't have writing on it. So right here, it says Kensington. You probably can't see it. I got a marker, a permanent Sharpie, and I just blacked it out just to hide any sort of writing on it. Yeah, for me, it was a little bit different because I had breaks included in my accommodations, and the room that I was in was next to the vending machines. So I could, after I exited, there were vending machines there, and nice chairs, and it was the best testing experience I've ever had for like any exam that I've taken. It's a shame that it was for the bar exam, which was super hard, but it was a really positive experience. Um, okay. Did you have to go through airport style security to get in? Okay, so that I assume like once you leave for lunch, you have to sort of budget your time that, okay, I have to go through security again to get back in. Okay. Um, so I'll go through sort of here what day one looked like. So day one, uh, for at the DC bar, I had MEE. So these were the essays, and there were six essay questions. And I did that from 9. We started early because there were only two of us in the testing room. So we started at 9:15 and we ended at like 1:12 or something like that. And in the afternoon, there was nothing scheduled. So I just left. So the first day was, I don't want to say an easy day because the bar is not necessarily easy, but I only had to focus on the morning. I didn't realize that when I went in that it was only the morning. So Urja, your first day was a bit different. Okay, that seems like a lot. I think Urch is a superstar for like, being able to get through that because I would really, really struggle. Carol, how did you find, because you did it with accommodations as well. How did you find it? Yeah. We had a rooftop bar we could go to. I mean, it's too, we had did you go up to the roof? Because they had like a rooftop bar. I mean, the only thing that was bad about it was that one of the days there was a streaker outside, and I didn't see him, thankfully, but a few people were a little bit traumatized. But it was just such a nice environment. And the thing is, everyone there was super nice, which was weird because whenever I called them on the phone, they were like the meanest people you would ever speak with. But then in person, they were just like really, really nice. So I don't know, maybe they have someone mean answering the phones, but I mean, I've called there several times and I think I'm speaking to different people and no one is happy to speak to me there. But yeah. Also on day one, my computer, the software stopped working for me for the MEEs. So, what happened is with the software that you use for you only use the software for the MEEs and the MPTs. Now, that morning, like you saw that I had a second computer monitor. I had my computer hooked up to the second monitor. I just took the plug out, but I didn't shut it down properly. So when I went into the bar exam, it was still looking for that second monitor, which wasn't there. So everything on my screen had shifted up. So I couldn't see the top of my screen at all because it was cut off. So I was typing and there was nothing there. And so there was a little moment of panic because I didn't know what to do. So I had to call tech support. I have a Mac, and uh, the tech support person does not like didn't work with Macs at all, but sort of knew what the problem was. And so, in order to fix it, you have to quit out of the bar exam software. Well, if you quit out of the software, it says you have to submit it. And so it says, do you really want to submit this? So I'm like, what? I've got nothing written, and now my MEEs are being submitted. I'm like, this is where I fail the bar because it was they were submitting nothing, but they said, don't worry, it'll be fine. So they told me to open up Microsoft Word and do the essays and email it to them. And I'm like, oh, all right. I mean, that sounds weird, but okay. So, and the thing is with Microsoft Word, it just really uh like my anxiety just sort of eased because I use Microsoft Word every day. I use Microsoft Word for, for almost everything. And so it just seemed really normal, and I could relax and do the exam. So that technical issue took about 5 to 7 minutes out of my time, which I didn't get back, but I think I was mostly okay. So be aware that technical issues can happen, and I was thankful that they didn't make me write the exam by hand. Yeah, they didn't do that for us initially, but they gave us, so there was an additional 2 minutes that they gave us back. Um, Yeah, but I think you should. And one thing to note is that there's a period where you can complain about, like after you take the bar exam, where you can send a complaint and they'll investigate it. I didn't realize this until after it was over. It said the complaints period is now over. I didn't have anything to complain about, but um, it was just something I noticed that was posted on the Court of Appeals website. And that adds up. I mean, the thing is, one of those MPTs was long enough that those 12 minutes would have really made a difference. Um, so for the MEEs, the essays, you get 3 hours to answer 6 essays. That's 30 minutes per essay. You need to be able to spot the issues, know the relevant law, and write a coherent answer. Okay. So my experience, I received 37 minutes per question because of my accommodations. Um, so the tech issues ate up it was like 5 to 7 minutes. And so I ended up emailing Miss Welsh my essay answers. All right. Um, okay. So day two at the Armory, day two at the bar. So day two we had was the MBEs, which are the multiple choice questions. That morning part was rough. There's no getting around it. It was rough, 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 rough. And I got out of the door late. I got there. You have to be in your seat by 8:50. I was there at 8:50. Like I just got in at 8:50. Like I just made it. So I was not in the best state, but on top of that, it was very hard. Ursula, what did you think? Yeah. Yeah. So had um I had like so I had so someone asked a question about people with disabilities getting extra time. You get extra time if you have an accommodation. So and you have to apply, as Carol just said, you have to apply for the accommodation. So I applied to get time and a half. And when you apply for the accommodation, you get they go on the previous accommodations you've been granted. So I received accommodations here at Scalia. I received accommodations at my previous school in the UK, and I've got medical records going back to 2017. So the DC Court of Appeals, they have an independent medical examiner who will go through your records. And so this examiner, who's never met me, never examined me, just examined my files, decided that the accommodations that I'd been getting all throughout law school were not applicable to the bar. And instead of time and a half, they're going to give me time and a quarter. But I could appeal it. Um, at that point, there was just so much going on. And because I had to go to the UK to even get the first recommendation, I decided not to appeal it and just work with the 25% accommodation, um, which was helpful. The time and a half would have been better, but you pick your battles. Um, so yeah, Oh. Did they give you a did they give you breaks or were breaks a part of your accommodation? Yeah, yeah. You were in a very big room, weren't you? Because they had some of the okay, so I was in Piney Branch, which was a small room. Um, it was yeah, so it was a very good test setup that we had set that we had. Wasim, did you have a question? I mean, for my, like, I had stopped the clock break, which basically means that if I have, 113 minutes for the exam, if I take a 10-minute break, so I got 10 minutes of stop the clock time break for every 10 minutes of the exam. So for a 3-hour exam, I had 30 minutes of break I could use, but I couldn't I like if I used it in more than 10-minute increments, it came off my time. So I would when I like felt like I needed something other than water to drink, I would go out, take my break, go to the vending machine, and I would buy like a Coke or something. Or for the times where I already had the Coke purchased, I had it sort of perched on one of the shelves near the exam room, and I would take my break. I'd go out, take a few sips, put my head down on one of the desks, and just try to relax for a little bit, and then go back into the room. So if you need to to drink something that they're not allowing, the breaks can allow for that. At least how it was set up for us. I'm sorry, what? We couldn't. I Yeah, we took water inside, and in fact, yeah, yeah, that time definitely adds up. Um, so I had a 25% additional time. So instead of 3 hours, I had 3.75 hours. So 3 hours, 45 minutes to do the MCQs. I finished 3 minutes early, 3 minutes before that ended. So that was like, I basically used up all that time. I tried to take a break at that point, I was doing a break like every 25 questions or something like that. Um, I was really, I found the morning ones really rough. Some people thought the afternoon ones were really rough. I think they have 10 different versions of the exam at least. So I think some people got the hard ones in the beginning, the hard ones. Some people got it in the end. But I had an hour lunch break, which felt good. So I could go out. My plan was to go back to the hotel room. Um, but what happened was when I went back to the hotel room, the hotel, which cleans your room every like 3 days, was cleaning my room right then and there. So, so I just went and down to the lobby and watched Judge Judy. So it was, I was close enough that to the hotel that, sorry, the hotel and the DC bar were 6 minutes away, so I could do that. I probably wouldn't be able to do that at the Armory. And or okay. Where did you end up eating? Yeah. Okay. All right. If I had to do it over again, if I would like either bring my husband or get some sort of personal assistant to just do the things like, because my mind needs to be 100% on that bar. I don't need to be thinking about, all right, is my lunch going to be too warm to eat? Like, I don't want to think of those little things. I want to really sort of focus on taking the exam. Yeah. So you have to find a food that you can eat room temperature or bring cool packs in. So yeah, I was lucky because we had a refrigerator in our room and the refrigerator was stocked with drinks that we could have. Yeah. Good. Okay. All right. So there are 200, 200 multiple choice questions divided into an AM session and a PM session. Standard test time was 3 hours. There are at least 10 versions of the exam. I had version number three of the exam. Um, and it required like reading through the exams, like you have to read the questions pretty fast. As part of the bar coaching that I we worked on multiple choice questions each weekend. So we did like 1 to 200 questions each weekend. And I felt like that trained me up to be prepared to sit through all of this. I could not go into it cold. If I didn't practice doing like at least, the 100 to 200 we did each weekend, there was no way I'd be able to finish doing that exam because it's just so much reading and you have to take in so much in you know, I think Urgi had like maybe 90 seconds to answer the question. Some, so yeah, some of them were really tough. Also, I feel, oh, we can't talk about what's on. So when you take the bar exam, you can't actually talk about the content of the exam until they release it. So that's why we're not going into specifics of. Yeah, but there were a few questions on there that I don't think should have been on there, but maybe those were the experimental questions. So that was a little bit surprising. So I practiced on 2,500 multiple choice questions in my prep time. My highest score for the mock exams was a 66%. 65% is what's needed really ideally to pass the MBEs. Um, Otherwise, you're going to have a very high MPT and MEE score. There's a lot of reading involved in 100 questions. You need to be able to train your mind to read lots of questions and pick an answer. I had 3 hours, 45 minutes. Having ADHD is really not conducive to MCQs at all. The AM session was hard. The questions we had, they really did not seem to resemble any questions I'd taken before on any, like from Adaptabar to Barbary to CPRAC to the Aspen book. No matter what set of questions I use, none of them were similar to the ones that I took on the bar exam. It just seemed like there was a whole separate set of questions and reasonings there. Um, After the AM session, after I did the AM session and I realized how hard it was, I just sort of was like, there's no way I can prepare for the PM session. So I took the PM MCQs the next day, whereas Urja took them the same day. So she had morning MCQs and afternoon MCQs. I had morning MCQs, afternoon MPTs, and then the next day I took the PM MCQs. So even though I had a night where I could revise, I just sort of gave up at that point because I'm like, there's no way to study for this. It's like I either know it or I don't at this point because it's too difficult. So I just enjoyed going out with Urja and Rashna and Shamark and Sashi and enjoying the night, with people in my cohort because I realized that it I there's nothing else I could add to you know add to my knowledge to do better at the MCQs. At that point, it was a done deal. My learning had been complete. So I took a break every 10 minutes, or sorry, a 10-minute break every 33 questions for the PM session. And then I got through the PM MCQs quite quickly. So I still had an hour, 25 minutes left to spare for the PM MCQs. So I'm hoping I did better. And I think there's something to be said for the shut up and pick it method of MCQs. Like you read through it, you go with like your gut from, what you understand and just move on instead of agonizing over it. Um, Taking the MPTs, you get two different MPTs. So MPTs are the practical tests. This is a situation where they say, okay, the client comes to you with this situation. You have a closed world sort of library of statutes and case law, and you have to like write a memo or something. They give you a task to do. So the task could be a memo regarding a fictional situation. Sometimes it's persuasive, sometimes it's subjective. Um, and you don't need to memorize any case law. You just need to apply the law that's contained in the library they supplied. And that standard test time is 3 hours. That's 90 minutes per MPT. Um, but it's a lot of reading. So I think, at least for me, I spent half or maybe even more than half my time reading the MPTs. And then I guess you should spend the other part of your time writing it. Ursha, how did you find it? Yeah. And I think for Ursha, so I was lucky that I could do MPTs on two separate days. I did the first MPT day one, second MPT day two. But if you're given two MPTs, those MPTs were not equal. And so if you're thinking, I'm going to spend half my time on the first MPT and half my time on the second MPT, and you don't know they're not equal until you've read through both of them. So, I mean, I I don't know how you did it, Ursha, because that second one was hard. Yeah. 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 Carol, do you have anything to add for the MPTs? Yep. Yeah. 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 So yeah, I definitely found that. And I recommend the Bar MD tutorial on YouTube. It's like this free tutorial. And I watched it and I practiced with it the first time, and it really like it goes over how to set up the MPT, and I just followed along the instructions. And one thing they have you do is to set up the MPT. So set up the introduction, then do the sort of skeletal outline, and then write a really generic conclusion so that if you get to a point where you end it abruptly, it doesn't like seem like it's so abrupt. So, okay. So day three was similar to the day two for me. So, if you're taking your exam at the Armory, you only do it in 2 days. You're in and you're out. Um, if you have accommodations, you're taking it over 3 or 4 days usually. I guess maybe there's some people that had accommodations, but didn't get a time accommodation. So I didn't run into anyone there that did that, but I think there were probably some people that did. Um, so um, for me, day three, I had the MCQs. This is 101 to 200. I had an hour lunch break, but I finished so early that I ended up with a 2 hour lunch break, which was amazing because then I could totally refresh, and be ready for that second MPT. All right. And then I have it's just something for you to check out later. A video where it's like I did a video diary of what it was like to take the bar exam in DC. Some of you may have already seen it. Um, and so it just goes over sort of day by day how things are going. Okay, so my impressions from taking the bar is that the essays, the MEEs, they weren't as difficult as I thought they would be, but it's also a possibility that maybe they were so difficult that I completely missed something and I assumed it was easier than it really was. Like I feel that the essay questions that I got when I was at University of Law in London, like all of my tests at University of Law were more difficult than the essay part of the MEEs. For the MEEs, I think the time part was difficult. Um, there was one like super tricky question on there that I was just like, oh my God, that I read it, but I guess I didn't read it thoroughly. And then in order to correct it, it just would have I'm not sure that I answered it wrong, but because I had to email my answers in to Miss Welsh, I still have my answers, which is both a blessing and a curse because now I've been able to read over them and see, wow, this is everything I got wrong. But there's a lot of stuff that I got right. So I feel like if they're going for minimal competence, if that's what they're testing for, I feel like on that basis that I passed. So it's nice to be able to see what you did, but also if you are obsessive in any way, it just drives you a little bit crazy. For the MBEs, which are the multiple choice questions, hard, quite hard. PM session not as difficult. Um, I would say the only way really to study for those is to review other MCQs, but I feel like even after all the MCQs I reviewed, I still was like sort of surprised and stumped by many of the MCQs. Like, I don't know what to tell you guys on that one. Just good luck. um, MPTs, time is your enemy here. The MPTs don't have to be difficult. You just need to manage your time on here. And I'm guessing if you're taking it at the Army, you probably want to read over the task at hand for both of them first so you can figure out like if one of them is going to take more time than the other. Because if I had to take both of them at once, I definitely like the first one, I would have been that person that spent 2 hours on the first one, right? And had half an answer for the second one because I didn't realize how much was involved. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I don't know. And the thing is, with the second one, it wasn't until I read the very last page of the statute that I realized, like, oh my God, this is where the meat is. Like the very last page of like, I don't know how many pages are in there, like 30 pages of the document, that it had like everything in there that I needed to prove. Like, and I'm like, why couldn't they put this first? Um, all right. So, whoops. All right. Uh, so lunch, yeah, this is just the lunch. I got to go back to my hotel for lunch. The first day I had no lunch break because we ended early. The second day I had an hour lunch break. The third day, and this is the Judge Judy episode that was on. The third day I ordered Chinese food. I went back. It was nice having that 2 hour break. I really loved it. Um, so my impressions of from easy to difficult, if I had to rank it, the MPTs, the first one I think was the easiest, and then the MEEs, and then the second day MBEs, then the MPT twos. Three and four could probably are very close and probably tied. And then the MBEs, the morning ones, those were the ones that were just hard. Um, the facilities were great, as I mentioned. I won't go on about that. Um, Armory, probably not as good as Urja has mentioned. So I just wanted to thank you all for listening to. I know we run on longer than we anticipated, but there was a lot of information here and some really great questions. Um, and if I want to thank Leela for having this idea to have this sort of retrospective. I'd planned something more for when after we had passed the bar, but I think it's good to get our initial thoughts out now. So we'll have another meeting after we get the bar results back, and I can say this definitely worked for me, that didn't work, etc. And so hopefully we'll all have good news from that point. But if you have any questions, please feel free to email me. And yes, you can have a copy of the presentation. I will, I'll, let me find a place to put it. I know there's a place on the Graduate Law Student Association on their Twen, but I know not everyone is like really up to date with Twen. But if you email me, I will send you a copy of the presentation and you can just download it and go through it. Oh yeah, my email address is on it's I don't know if you can see it's amackeyr@gmu.edu. So I've got it right there, and I'll put it in the chat as well. Okay. Uh, any other questions before we go? So I actually have a job interview at 2. So I need to go and I have to eat lunch and feed my kids. Um, but let me know if you need any help. I'm always happy to help someone. Yeah. All right, guy. Yeah. You upload it after, so you send it to, I sent it before. She didn't ask for it, but I was just trying to present as much useful information as possible. And so, so, so I sent it to her, but it does ask when you take the bar, sorry, when you register for the bar, there's a long list of, well, not long, but they're like probably 10 things that ask you to upload, and you just upload them. Like I didn't upload everything the same day. You just go through and upload it. Um, okay. All right, guys. I'm so sorry. I have to drop out because I have to do some quick prep before my interview. Um, but thank you for joining. I really appreciate it. All right. Bye.